We've played the clips of former Fed Chairman Greenspan on Lair NewsHour saying, look, we're the fourth branch of government. We're private. Congress cannot control us. We can do whatever we want. Because you say so? The World Trade Organization, a private group set up 15 years ago, has more power over our trade than Congress? I mean, here's a New York Times article, and this leads into what I'm about to cover. Here's a New York Times article today. Now, listen to this. We would talk about this years ago and be laughed at. It's the Plunge Protection Team, and it's a private group of bankers with government power. Now, I'd talk about this 10, 15 years ago and get laughed at, even though I had all the documents. Now it's in the New York Times today by Louis Story. A secretive banking elite rules trading in derivatives. Now, derivatives, literally, in almost every case, are totally fake, counterfeit financial instruments. That's why you're having to pay trillions of dollars into secretive banks, or they will destroy the economy. They will pull the plug and bring in martial law. That's what Henry Paulson threatened Congress with 2 years ago in October, over 2 years ago, 26 months ago. We broke that. We had congressmen on about the martial law threat, and for 3 days the media made fun of us saying it wasn't true and that I wasn't interviewing real congressmen until it came out in the Associated Press. People can't believe this. It's like 12, 14 years ago when I told you every person in the Western world has their blood taken secretly and put in Pentagon and UN databases. Now people sued because they heard my show here in Austin. They got the documents and found out it is a Pentagon DNA database. That's what I'm talking about. Stop being so gullible. Here's the New York Times telling you how great it is that there's a secretive banking elite that controls the stock market and derivatives and manipulates everything. For your safety, of course. What industry is the only industry making record profits right now? Record. In the history of banking, it's the big 6 mega banks. Oh, the other banks, massively going under. Second biggest collapse of banks since the Great Depression. I mean, there's scores of banks going belly up every week. And who controls the regulators that come in and shut them down? Some are even healthy banks. It's the 6 mega banks. And they say that here in the article. Aren't we lucky we have these guys? 1.5 quadrillion, $1,500 trillion. Conservatively, impossible to pay. We don't owe it, but they're saying we're going to pay it. Reading the statements of Mr. Cahoon, if that's how you pronounce it. In fact, guys, for me, pull up the head of the Irish Central Bank, that BBC headline, foreign banks to own Ireland. He comes out and says, oh, we want to be run by foreign banks. And then it comes out, just like in Iceland and in Greece, almost all the debt is not owed by the people. They're not insolvent. It's owed by the banks. The banks create this derivatives bubble of 1.5 quadrillion, buy up most of the infrastructure, then tell the public on the way down in the Ponzi scheme, you've got to pay this Ponzi scheme off. These guys make Bernie Madoff, whose son just committed suicide yesterday. If you believe that, I got a bridge I'll sell you. You believe Ken Lay, the day before he was going to go to prison, had a heart attack? Sure. You believe Easter bunnies went to the moon? A secretive banking elite rules trading in derivatives. Oh, this is the New York Times. On the third Wednesday of every month, the 9 members of the elite Wall Street Society gather in Midtown Manhattan. The men share a common goal, to protect. Oh, aren't they? They're like Superman. They go into phone booths and change out of their business suits into Wonder Woman outfits. Now, the men share a common goal to protect the interest, like the NASDAQ founder, Bernie Madoff. Or Ken Lay. They want to protect you. They care. They're so... The men share a common goal to protect the interest of big banks in the vast market for derivatives, one of the most profitable and controversial fields in finance. Yeah, it was these head bankers that controlled the government in 99 under Clinton that got the rules changed to do this. And now they control the market secretly. It's totally rigged. But they tell you to go invest in it. And then we get the Timberwolf Goldman Sachs emails where they're calling their customers moron idiots, and we're selling them total bleep. I can't say it on air. And ha, ha, ha. It's so funny. Oh, and all your taxes are going to be paid to them. The men share a common goal to protect the interest of big banks in the vast market for derivatives, one of the most profitable and controversial fields in finance. They also share a common secret. The details of their meetings, even their identities, have been strictly confidential. Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, J.P. Morgan, Bank of America. Oh, we'll be right back. Stay with us. Key info coming up.
Crashing through the lies and disinformation. It's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network.
So they know that the American people got a partial audit of the private Federal Reserve passed this year, spearheaded by Ron Paul, who's now the head of the banking committee that can subpoena the private Federal Reserve and under the Constitution abolish it. Congress controls the issuance of currency and credit. Doesn't matter if the private bankers who hijacked our country 97 years ago with the Federal Reserve Act tell us they're God, tell us they're above the law. They're not. But most people go, well, it's an old man in a suit. We better do what he says. Old men don't rob us. Just look at Bernie Madoff. Look at Ken Lay. So now they come out knowing that even more audits are coming, full audits. We already learned trillions. First it was $1 trillion, then 2, then 3, to foreign banks and U.S. media. Turns out MSNBC is basically funded by the U.S. government. Oh, you don't like government-run health care? You are a racist. That's what the feds are saying. Oh, Rand Paul, he's evil. Government-funded TV. Secretly. That came out last week. And so now they're just basically trying to beat us to the punch. Okay, secret group runs the stock market and derivatives. It's insider deal. It's like a casino. But you can find plenty of idiots to go bet on the casino. Drawn from giants like J.P. Morgan Chase, Goldman Sachs, and Morgan Stanley, the bankers form a powerful committee that helps oversee trading in derivatives. Yeah, they wrote the law to allow it. Oh, the foxes are overseeing the chickens. Oh, look at that fox snuggling that chicken with its fangs in its neck, drinking its blood. Oh, it's so sweet. It's good to have the wolves guarding the sheep. Drawn from giants like J.P. Morgan Chase, Goldman Sachs, and Morgan Stanley, the bankers form a powerful committee that helps oversee trading in derivatives, instruments which, like insurance, are used to hedge risk. Oh, the derivatives hedge our risk. They didn't cause a problem. There's not over $1,000 trillion of them the bankers created that they want us to pay off for them. Remember Ireland a decade ago? It was the big success story. They cut their taxes there. Their economy exploded. And then 2 years ago, they tried to force them to join the EU, which is a receivership arm of these same banks. And they voted it down. So they voted for it again this year. And the polls all showed it was going to lose, but magically it won. And they went from the wealthiest, fastest growing country per capita to in Europe to one of the poorest now. And here is an article out of Reuters. This is from last year, September 27th. Why Ireland is bailing out foreign banks. So they've got it right. It's a bailout. But then you go to the news story from last month. It says Irish Republic banks for sale. And they have the bank head of Ireland, of their private central bank who runs the country, Mr. Hoonihan. He says, I've been an advocate for many years of the value for small countries to have foreign owners for their banks. So, and then it comes out in the news that almost all the debt is owed by the banks in investments they've made, but the Irish get to have their taxes raised, their benefits cut, their Social Security cut, their veterans benefits cut to pay the bankers. The same thing came out in Iceland, but the Icelanders said no to it. And then it came out, almost all that debt's owed by the private banks, not by the bankers, because they've taken over our governments and written the laws to be able to get away with this. But just because you change a law to get away with fraud doesn't mean it's still not illegal. You could change a law saying the president can, play polo with children's heads. It doesn't mean that that's not called tyranny and that somebody like Ceausescu needs to get in trouble or Adolf Hitler. So I've covered that. Next hour, I'll open the phones up. Here's the toll-free number. It's 888-201-2244, 888-201-2244. We'll get you up and on the air again, 888-201-2244. We are live. But you've seen the takeover of the web happening with the staged Wikileaks situation to make it look bona fide and real. They're burning their front man, Patsy, when it's really run by Soros-connected people and Cass Sunstein at the White House and the CIA. This is how they're going to try to take our liberties. Just like they staged terror attacks physically to take our liberties, now they're staging cyber attacks. And I have no doubt it's probably big private corporations hacking Amazon and others right now to bring them down. Then they'll take all of our rights in the name of it. Now, continuing. Look at this stack of key news. And I'm going to cover this first before I get to new developments. Here is the New York Times, December 5th, 2008. And what spurred me to have this epiphany today? I was on one of my YouTube videos checking views. I noticed a comment on the Alex Jones channel of the hundreds of millions of views we have on YouTube in the last few years. And the commenter was saying, Alex is a complete liar. The Queen of England doesn't run Canada. They've never suspended Parliament. He is a liar. There's no Governor General. But the next commenter said, really, here's the New York Times headline. I searched it, pulled it up, remembered the article. On Friday, I talked about how just like we have shadow banking groups that really run our government, and our Congress is basically more and more ceremonial, they could take back their rightful power through the people anytime. Or that other article I just covered about big private mega banks meeting secretly and, staging the markets. And I see this all the time. People will just say I'm lying about something when it's publicly available because it's come out. Many of them are paid for. The government admits they have tens of thousands of people, this is mainstream news, on the web attacking anybody that's against the Federal Reserve, anybody that criticizes corruption. And you better believe, of all the folks fighting the globalists, we're the most effective, so it's happening to us. But see, people know how to check it now, and they find out I'm not lying. But there's this meme on the internet that they just pump. Alex is a liar. Alex is a liar. Or Alex covers UFOs, which I don't do. Or Alex works for this group or that group. It's all lies. But every time I'm on CBC radio or Canadian radio or TV live, I bring this up, and it's like a glaze comes over them. Same thing on Australian TV or radio I've been on. They can't believe it, even though it's true. They think they're democratic. They think they elect their parliament. But if their parliament doesn't do exactly what they want, the Queen of England, from my research, probably the second richest family on earth, their real name, Saxe-Coburg-Gotha, Elizabeth of Saxe-Coburg-Gotha, it's a German royal family. If they don't do exactly what she says, and this has happened in Australia in the 70s, in other possessions of England, Commonwealth. She's the biggest landowner in the world, biggest oil company, BP, Dutch Royal Shell. She owns that with her cousin, Queen Beatrix of the Netherlands. They come in and shut it down. Now, I talk about this, and Canadians and Australians cannot hear it. It just totally blows them away. But here it is. New York Times. Canadian leader shuts down Parliament. Canada's, and he's a Bilderberg Group member, has openly called for world government. Canada's parliamentary opposition reacted with outrage on Thursday after Prime Minister Stephen Harper shut down the legislature until January 26, seeking to forestall a no-confidence vote that he was sure to lose. See, there, the parties, you elect the representatives, then they appoint the president or prime minister. Kind of like till the 17th Amendment, state legislatures, you vote for them, then they vote for the U.S. senator. The state then controls the senator. Now they're popularly elected.